thank you for coming out. Because as you know, this is an independent project. We have a quadcopter drone. We're going to be doing aerials. We're going to have you guys busting up these houses, sicking attack dogs on children. You know, it's going to get nasty.
Yeah.
And just thank you guys for being a part of it. I hope you have the presence of mind to remain professional and not take it too far. It's just, I don't know what too far really is at this point. So just impress me, make it real. You're here for a reason, right? You're part of the Gray State team?
Yes.
Show it to me.
Big family.
Show it to me.
Big family.
Anything else?
I think we're covered.
Squad leaders, I want to hear you yelling to your guys. If you need commands, if they're doing something wrong, get them into play. That's your target house. High value individual in there, very dangerous, his arm. Get there, get your squad up there.
Oh, get there. So David had saying all the time, he screamed, get there, get there. And David only showed you one time how to do something, and he hated it if you had to go back and ask questions about it.
Action! Hit it! Go, 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 go! Okay, cut!
42 people watching so far.
How many?
42.
43.
Oh, 43.
Hey guys, how's it going? I'm losing my voice, so I'll make this quick. Right now, we're getting to the fun stuff. This is the actual Gray State, so you guys have seen the trailer, obviously, you know. This is just a quick jump into the future. Can you do a loop of the house?
Okay.
Okay, I'm watching.
Watch this, Daddy.
I'm right here, I'm watching.
Even in the midst of it, David always took time to acknowledge his daughter.
You're a goofball.
Say Gray State. Gray State.
It's interesting being here on this set, because this set here, where we're shooting this interview, is where we did a lot of the shooting for Gray State.
Action.
If you are receiving this message, then you've been recruited. Welcome to the fight, Patriot.
Okay, a little bit less on the happy.
Less, okay.
What is Gray State?
Gray State is less a movie than it is a warning. We do not live in a dictatorship, but we do live in a police state. What we're going to see is the unveiling of this Gray State foisted upon America. The thing that you have to begin to understand about conspiracy theory is that at some point, it's no longer theory. You talk about peak oil, you talk about FEMA camps, you talk about global warming, you talk about the UN, you talk about the NWO. They're prepping for megadeath. Last night's declaration of martial law. Once the red carpet gets rolled out for this New World Order program, everything is free game. The bastard of it all is that you've heard of everything. Americans believe that they can't do anything. And day by day, they're becoming correct. It's a game of numbers, and we're losing.
Salute everybody that came out to address the real elite, the robber barons that have taken over our society. These are cowardly scum. All right, get down there, folks. Lights down there. Get them. Yeah. Come on. I'm going to get the other people.
Hey, Alex, can we lock in a time with you tomorrow for...
I'll be out here like 9 in the morning. What are you guys doing with Ted?
You know that dystopian movie you're always talking about on air? We're the only ones doing it. So it's what happens if these guys win. And it's the dystopian near future reality we're looking at if we don't embrace liberty.
Oh, that's what's called Gray State.
Yeah.
David didn't want to be leader for anything. He didn't want the glamour, the glory of the millions of dollars. You know, he saw a vision, he wanted to make it work, and he wanted to get it out.
The Gray State Movie. Go to graystatemovie.com. We're on Facebook. We're on YouTube. The word is getting out, and the war is coming.
David Crowley was a voice for a movement that believed that a government shutdown was imminent, that the oligarchy and these corporate powers, the corporatocracy, could overtake our civilization, our society, and in turn our citizens, and take away all of our civil liberties and human rights.
If you look around, this reminds me of Iraq. We've got the gradual decline of freedom and liberty. That's the Gray State.
He was a genius. He was a genius. I had never met anybody so analytical, so decisive, and so strategic.
Thanks for coming. It's important to note that without the volunteered participation of people like you to give the project scale, all of the best ideas and loftiest ambitions would never be realized. This is not just a movie. Today we're all part of something much bigger.
So a lot of people, when they look at David, they could think, why does he make everything so difficult, so challenging, and so tough? And probably the easiest answer is because he was a perfectionist.
What the f*** is this wall, and how does it work?
So, the wall is just a writing tool. The wall is something that every writer probably does. I don't know how extensive they get. Maybe they're better at synthesizing story than I am. So, I mean, if you want to look at it physically, you have the story here, beginning to end, also up, or top to bottom. So in constructing a story, you'll find out that it works on several levels. There's mythological storytelling, so it's the hero's journey as described by Joseph Campbell.
Well, this whole thing has sort of taken on a mind of its own. We're still pretty new to this whole gig, but you know, it is developing. This project has developed momentum that I can't even describe. It has run away from us.
Action!
Okay, so head in your crotch. Bloody head in your crotch. Hi, Chris Peck. Nice to meet you.
Slate.
Speed. Action!
I think what made David a good leader was probably what he picked up through his experience of the Army.
Cameras are rolling!
He would lead his crew like we were going into war and, you know, we might not come out alive. Who else could walk up to a group of 20 people and say, hey, you want to be actors in this scene? People with no experience at all. David would make them into actors.
And you're going to be leaning forward more. Shoot this arm back. Just start there. Yeah. Okay, cool. Here we go. Here we go.
If you guys want to be in the scene, Chief Weinzettel told me that I can do whatever I want with you guys as long as you're cool with it. So if you want to jump out and join the squads and make a show of it, I'm cool with that if you are. I want to get away with as much as I can. So if I can have a snarling dog attack a family safely, I'm going to do that. And you guys have to tell me no.
David very much had a vision when it came to making Gray State.
Action!
He knew how to be a businessman. He knew how to get people together. They were not filmmakers.
All right, cut.
And Damon gets up and says, Kelly, I can't. You might die. Like, we've talked about this.
Yeah.
Everybody dies.
Which is good, because I think it's like repeating the conversation that would happen.
But what's Kelly's motivation to get it taken out? Because she knows that Josh kept her off the radar, right?
David and Kamel were always one unit. I mean, they were incredible. I mean, they were a relationship you wish for.
And a bear in there, a bear figurine.
He's got too many figurines.
Cherub figurines.
They always had their own interesting way to express how much they loved each other.
Yeah, that's better.
I was just,
You're fidgeting over there, I can tell.
No, I'm not. I'm just laughing. I'm glad this isn't being narrated because, like, Daniel feels a lump in his pocket from the expo. It can mean a lot of things. So I'm glad no one's narrating it.
Ooh. Hold on, let me touch my lump.
Tell me about Kamel a little bit.
Sorry.
Well, you can't help but think about it every time you drive past it, or just coming out in the backyard and looking over. And the people I have talked to, we would all just be happy if someone came and tore it down and built something new. We had my sister-in-law living with us for the month of December. And we took her home in the first part of January. And as we were driving to the airport that morning, I looked at the steps and I noticed there were still Christmas gifts out there. And we had assumed that they went to Texas.
Well, I went over to pick up the presents and then I heard the dog bark. And I hadn't heard the dog bark for a long time, so I thought, well, they must be home. And since I was in the front, I went to ring the doorbell. Well, then the dog came and jumped up by the front window and was barking, and I thought, well, they're not home. I haven't seen the dog or heard the dog before. Maybe there might be something wrong. And that's when I stepped off the stoop and went over to the window and I looked inside. I saw one body that was probably, maybe about 6 to 8 feet away from the window. And then I noticed that there was another body, maybe 6 to 7 feet away from the first one. And I noticed that there was a little body that looked like it was almost in the second body's arms.
1055 Ramsdale Drive. Cop reporting suspicious behavior next door. Went over to the home to the right of the RP, sees dead bodies inside the house, dog inside, sees a gun in the house on the floor.
To look at the three of them through the Instagram filter of life, it's hard to imagine how it all went so wrong. David Crowley, a talented, promising young filmmaker, his smart and beautiful wife, Kamel, a dietitian, and their adorable 5-year-old daughter, Rania. The reality is, the truth of what happened to David Crowley and his family is stranger and sadder than anyone imagined. So this is the home in Apple Valley. I mean, this is a total middle-class neighborhood. And this was mid-January when police made the discovery. You can still see the Christmas presents on the front porch. But what a horrific crime to walk into and try to piece together. Physical evidence scattered all over by the dog. I mean, horrific. Investigators found about 22 terabytes of information, all strung together on hard drives, kind of daisy-chained all together. And you had to think that when they're looking at all this, they're like, okay, maybe the answer is in one of these hard drives. We find the why. So I took the case file. It was about 1,500 pages. And I went through it. And all of a sudden I came through a picture that they did not have in the crime scene photos that they provided. And I said, oh my God, what is this? And there on the wall, above the bodies, scrawled in blood, the words, Allah Akbar, God is the greatest. Between their bodies, a Quran with pages torn out, opened to a traditional forgiveness prayer. In the home office on a notepad, submit to Allah now.
How do you try to explain 3 deaths, you know, a husband and a wife and their little girl? And you can't come up with answers, right? I mean, talk about the various parts of it, you just can't come up with answers. And there's something about it that just kind of gets on you and you just can't wash it off. There's a Quran laying amongst the bodies. There's blood on the wall. David Crowley's right on the verge of making it big, shall we say, or at least taking a really big step in getting beyond YouTube and actually getting to a movie, to theaters everywhere. No wonder it was catnip for conspiracy theorists.
Hello, this is Dan Hennon, along with Greg Fernandez Jr. for another installment of the Crowley Case Updates. Today is June 4th, 2016, and we've got some updates on the case. So how are you doing today, Greg?
I'm doing good. It's hot, but that's okay.
Good, good.
I don't give a crap about credibility at all. Credibility means nothing to me. What I care about is truth.
I'm not in law enforcement. I don't have a background in detective work, but how it happened, I would say it's undetermined. You've got no suicide note. There's no motive. And they said that out of their way to say that the blood test on the wall written Allah Akbar was the blood of Comel Crowley.
Right.
Well, who wrote the blood? Once you get into this wrong territory, once you start treading into these waters, there is a backlash against you by some shadow entity, who knows what it is, but you start pushing the wrong buttons to the elite, so to say, and there is payback.
And I think one of the big problems with the people who think that David Crowley is guilty is they don't even want us asking questions now. They don't decide when we get to stop asking questions. We get to decide that.
Did the government want to silence him and his film?
Guys out here going after the truth get knocked off.
This particular video really shows why the criminal establishment murdered not only him, but his family as well.
As the admin and creator of the justice pages on the Facebook accounts, I allow all theories to come into play. I don't want to censor narratives. There are certain people out there that certainly believe that these things did happen. They ruled it a double murder followed by a suicide at the hands of David without any real investigation. There was no signs of domestic violence. There was no evidence of a violent household. There was no evidence of PTSD. There was no evidence of mental illness, no depression, nothing.
There are certain points in every story that you can recognize that this is what happens to the character at this point in the story. For example, after Act 2 begins, eventually the midpoint is created, which is the metaphorical inmost cave. So the hero enters the labyrinth to fight the Minotaur, and he emerges with the secret, but the fight isn't over. And that applies to other stories, like the character doesn't have the right idea yet, and is still kind of struggling, but he achieves progress through proactivity, and all these things. And then eventually there's the supreme ordeal, which is like the ultimate fight to death.
You know, he had a whole album for her that he made while he was in Afghanistan. He's like picking away here, you know, like he's played guitar his whole life, so. Well, David was good at whatever he decided was worth being good at. He was good at being a father. He was good at being a husband. He's good at school. You know, he did things differently. He thought differently, and he worked harder, and he was more driven.
This is Crowley. Testing out the Spartan 8-footers.
It's not quite 8 feet.
Well, it's a little 6-footer, kind of.
Yeah, well, maybe like 5'10".
Yeah, whatever. Oh, weak.
I need the tape.
Hey.
All right.
Yes.
Ha! Again.
Finish him.
Give me my second spear.
Awesome.
Everything he did it to his utmost ability. He never half-assed anything. He saw what he wanted, and he went and he took it.
Bang. Bang, bang.
We never needed to join the military, but like we were playing airsoft, kind of like paintball or whatever. We tried to make it as realistic as possible, I guess. So we're trying to wear accurate uniforms and trying to do, you know, military type movements and military type things. And for me, and I think for him too, it was just a natural progression of, I like the military, I like guns, I like, you know, that type of thing. So I'm like, I would like to progress from playing it to being it.
I can't ever remember deciding to join the Army, but of course we were all inundated with the whole glory aspect of it, having seen Black Hawk Down, which came out around the time that we were in 10th grade. And so at some point it became obvious to us that we were joining the military.
Well, this is fun.
I served in Ramadi, Iraq in 2006, and I witnessed directly what we're doing there, the good and the bad.
This? Put in the water?
No,
he drank it all.
He
drank it all. Here, give it to old boy right there. Look, put this in the water, dude.
9/11 obviously generated a lot of emotion. You see 3,000 of your fellow Americans incinerated. You think, that sucks. So when they say we need to go to Iraq because of this, you're going to Iraq, buddy. I've seen people shot in the head. I've seen people killed. I've seen people blown up. I've been in combat. I've shot people. I know how combat goes. You die like animals. We die like animals. You bleed out, and then you leave a corpse that looks surprised. And that's just how it is. And I witnessed directly how the mentality of the American soldier is being used, and directly how the mentality of the American public is being used. I mean, when you follow a flag, you're going to be manipulated. It's not like following a person or following an idea. You're following a country. And whenever that country says to follow, you're going to do. It is morally reprehensible what we're doing in the Middle East. And if you don't understand that yet, you need to open your eyes, because you are a slave for the most insidious global agenda mankind has ever known, and you are directly responsible for that. At some point, you've got to realize that you're just a dog jumping through hoops for the government.
David called me and said, hey, I met this girl and we're getting married. I'm like, what? He goes, yeah, we're getting married in 2 weeks. I said, I heard you were seeing somebody for a couple months, but wow.
David, would you have this woman, Kamel, to be your lawfully wedded wife?
I do.
Will you love, honor, and keep her in sickness and in health, and forsaking all others, keep you only unto her so long as you both shall live?
I will.
I first heard he was having problems and he went to Afghanistan, and he was really struggling because he's now afraid. He was never afraid before, but now that he's met Kamel, he really has a reason to live. He really doesn't want to get killed.
He has a wife and a daughter on the way, and he thought he was going back to civilian life and he'd done his time, and Uncle Sam said thank you, and now all of a sudden he is being thrown into what he feels to be a corrupt war. What the stop loss did to his worldview and how he described it to me was that he had a breakdown.
I was stop lost. I was involuntarily held by the military for 15 months. I was forced to deploy against my will. Had to leave my brand new wife at home. And I come back from that very disgruntled, to say the least. Nothing good ever comes out of a deployment except for, well, a body count.
After today. Why are you making more of me?
Because you're pretty.
Get out
You're
of
pretty.
here. Hey, Ronnie.
Kamel was very devoted and attached to Ronnie. Ronnie was her world. She and Ronnie had a very special relationship, always hugging and happy and joking around, and she was a very attentive mother.
What did you have for lunch today?
Sandwich.
You ate a peanut butter and jelly sandwich?
Yeah.
She was just what I thought every parent would want in a daughter, you know? She likes pink. She's adorable. She has goofy features, and, you know, there's just so much to love about her.
You like cookies, huh? Okay, say goodbye to Uncle Danny.
Bye-bye. Big smile. She'd have been my dream girl, you know, as a dad.
Not sure what kind of sadism this is. Because you know he's never going to get that stick. And I think that's the whole point. Let's hope no one loses an eye. Because then I got to deal with it.
Kamel would make a lot of comments on the fact that David was very clear he did not want any more children, which at the time I thought was weird because they were so young. To be that final about that decision at such a young age surprised me.
Hey, so what you looking at?
This one.
Are you going to kill?
No, we're not.
You're not going to kill? Why?
Because I'm not going to kill him.
Well, that's nice. That's good.
He's a baby.
Ugly baby. And we definitely don't kill babies, do we?
No.
No, no.
When I had a baby, when I had a baby, we don't kill my baby.
Nope. That's why you're still alive, and it's your 4th birthday tomorrow.
When I'm a baby, we don't kill my... When I was a baby, and then you don't kill me when I was a baby?
Nope, no one killed you. We couldn't pull it off.
Now, if a character has a desire, that means he often has a competing internal desire, which often comes from a past trauma that usually is explained at the midpoint. It becomes very scientific and very methodical, but that doesn't mean it's any easier to create. So I'll have certain colors that represent when the character will acknowledge his inner trauma.
Gray State is shot everywhere, but mostly it's shot in a studio. But you'd never know looking at the footage. All this buzz that people have for Gray State, we didn't start it. The story is, the farther down you go, the story becomes bigger and it involves more people. It involves generations and generations of Americans and everyone else playing their part leading up to this moment. So yes, once you begin to connect these dots, there's no way you can't tell a story about it.
he was introduced to the idea. It started out as a fun little fantasy, and then I think it kind of snowballed and got bigger than he had imagined it would.
Okay, Mitch. Yeah. Put a mark down.
He had a very take control personality, and I think I almost got like submissive of it. After I had seen the results, I'm like, well, I didn't agree with you, but holy this looks good, so I'm gonna go with it.
Okay, I'm gonna be frank. This is a public execution. Gunshot to the back of the head. Who wants it?
Gunshot to the back of the head. No. Going twice. 3 times. Sold. Yes, I want to be killed.
So this was, in the trailer, this would have been preparing for one of the execution scenes where one of the militia people basically executes 4 people in a row. So we were prepping for that spot.
Didn't this strike you as kind of creepy?
Yeah, very creepy.
It's like this. Yeah, you could even like give a little bit of a cock and if you want. Just bang, 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 and even like don't even walk up to the 4th guy. Just kind of do it from a distance. Bang. Okay, just listen for the pop, guys, and it's got to be instant. And guys, this is the grossest thing about this movie is that it comes home like this. All right. Okay, here we go. Here we go. Adam, first mark. Camera's rolling. Action. Here it comes, guys. Breathing. Breathing. Here it comes. Good. Cut. Cut. That's gross. That's just gross, you guys.
We spent days and hours with each other. That's kind of how we became the whole little band of brothers, or the Crawleyites, as I would call it.
Adam, do you know what's going on?
Absolutely not. I just listened to you. We only hired the finest people here.
Okay, Adam, you ready?
I never felt like David was necessarily the alpha dog. It was more of David was the type of person that would literally give his shirt for you, or off his back for you.
Anyone who's not packing should be.
He turned into a pit bull when he was directing, but set that aside, I mean, he was a sweetheart.
Awesome. Yeah? Awesome. What's next? What are we doing next? Like, same thing? Yeah, you're my AD, okay? Okay. So, if it's going to be down to a situation where we get the cameras over here and the...
I think Kamel's role with Gray State is she was literally David's cheerleader, like just always there at his beck and call, night and day, to get this project pushed and done. You know, because David's success would ultimately mean their success.
But we got to like him, otherwise we do not care. And when he comes in at the end, like, oh, that guy again.
I don't think you're supposed to care. It's not about him. He tried to save Kelly, and then he throws this beautiful funeral for this girl, which I like. And, you know, there's just something mysterious about him, and I'd like to leave it there. I don't want to know him yet, because I'm trying to figure Daniel out.
Kamel still is a mystery. I mean, the vibe that I always got was free-thinking, independent woman. So the idea that she somehow becomes a puppet of her husband, just, that's the question that's still there, right?
Kamel was definitely intelligent. She was definitely very good at anything that she put her mind to. But I think what made her so good was that she was intelligent, but also extremely passionate.
Come on, baby. Get it. I'm gonna run with you.
She was easy to talk to and was a quick thinker when you would ask her questions. She was intellectually curious and jumped on whatever she thought she should be pursuing. If it was the paleo diet, she was all on board with that. They named their dog Paleo. You know, I think she was trying to find her place.
I just wish I could watch it rather than read. That's what I hated about it. And I hope you make it better than what I'm imagining. You will.
So David Crawley, Bucksall Convention, he self-funds a trailer for a movie that doesn't exist. He's going to use that trailer as a marketing tool to get money to pay himself in order so he can write the script. Then he's going to take that script, take it to Hollywood, get $30 million to make the movie that he wants to make. It's an improbable dream. I mean, it's a guy in Apple Valley. He's unemployed. He's got a young family, and he's doing it in reverse order. I don't believe that even he could have foresaw how successful that was going to be.
Watch this, Daddy.
Okay, parents, once we get everyone together.
Parents,
You know how the police typically view us, peasants in situations where they get to use their weapons. They have no regard for your rights, okay? So what's going to happen? This is a 3 a.m. raid, okay? You're all asleep, so you're all in your pajamas. If you feel like you're warm enough, I want you barefoot. You're getting pulled out of your bed in the middle of the night by these armed goons. They're going to take you out. They're going to force you into the ground.
He's basically telling all these little kids that we're essentially going to, rip you out of this house and...
Okay, so listen up. I'm going to instruct my squad leaders. If it gets too scary, too intense, the safety word is banana, okay? So you can scream, don't hurt me, stop hurting me, and stuff, and they're not going to listen. If you say banana, they will hands off. They'll stop.
It's funny. He could even get kids to do what he wanted.
And action. Cut. That was it. Great job.
Hey, what does dangerous mean?
Dangerous means scary monster. That's what dangerous means.
Okay.
When you push that red one, then the monsters are gonna get you and they're bloody. No, when you're a little girl, and then you get an owl here.
Bloody monster's coming.
No, it's gonna get Mommy Como, and then when she's a little girl, and then she got blood on her face, and then monsters gonna get her, and then when she's a little girl, and then she got bloody ears now and her earrings, and then she.
Look at all her dramatic effects.
And then you got bloody. And then
She really thinks about these
blood
things.
everywhere, and then this room, and then this room is bloody, and then this room is a floor, and then lots of bleeding, and then the red man's gonna get you and roar you, and it's gonna get everywhere when you're a little girl.
Yeah, I mean, okay, let's face it. You can, there's a red rum quality to it. It's like The Shining, right? A premonition that the girl is prescient. I mean, the way she's talking about this stuff is scary. But she has been exposed enough to some very dark things that this is what she knows, and this is what a little girl is now talking about. I mean, she's 5 years old.
Oh, very nice.
Who wants to watch?
We all do.
Flare and all, we're morally adrift. We have no common goals. We're just a bunch of individuals in a collective state, and we don't support each other. And so once I identified that, I'm like, that's my villain. And so a person watching this film can be like, they subconsciously recognize that this scene is where there's supposed to be a meeting between the hero and the villain.
reached, as it were. We are ready to go.
I think for us, shooting the concept trailer, raising the money that we did, setting the goal and crushing the goal that we set for, back then we thought it was totally feasible to do what we were going to do.
We're very, very fortunate to have the crew from Gray State here today. Woo!
Yeah! I think the fans had a great expectation of David. I think they saw the Gray State as the potential voice for this message and this story to be told.
This is David Crowley, the brains behind the madness. These guys are working very hard to put out this incredible film. It's big time stuff.
So to hold David to that standard of excellence that he set himself up for, this amazing concept trailer that he put together, and this movement of videos and social media and press attention, they expected an incredible movie.
Obviously, the things that we're showing, the things that we're saying are appealing to people, and it's making it a very popular idea. So this project started as sort of like, what am I going to do this spring? But it's developed into this beast that we can't even keep up with.
So in the fall of 2012, the trailer comes out, and it very quickly just explodes online. He becomes a YouTube sensation. It's shared everywhere on social media, Facebook, Twitter, whatever it may be, and conspiracy theorists believe that this guy is perhaps a messenger.
It's a near future collapse of society under martial law.
They've ordained him in some special way, and they're wanting him to deliver.
Censoring for communist China. You understand? Now they're doing it on a mass scale in the U.S., England, Canada, and Europe. Are we going to put up with communist Chinese style or worse censorship of the sites? It's happening.
No!
You understand?
We're not going to do it!
Comcast, Time Warner, others are doing it right here in Texas. Comcast is doing it in New York. Other major, the two major companies.
That's what I've been saying!
Ago, in Canada.
Hey Alex, good to talk to you again. I'm David Crowley. I'm the writer and director of Gray State. What will happen in the film is the reason we call it Gray State, or one of the reasons, is that it's a division of reality. So we have people who are living in the Alex Jones world who know what's going on, and the people who simply don't.
My role in this whole thing was not just to be there and assist David with whatever he wanted, because he knew he already had my commitment, but I was, of course, David's personal Rolodex. I'd been doing the work in the trenches with the revolution for years, and so I knew everybody already.
What camera you want me to look at?
Look right, you're talking to Sean. Talk to Sean.
Okay.
Hit it.
Okay, I got it, guys.
Cool.
We see a giant arms race against the American people, but not just here in the United States, worldwide. We see the globalists building a giant police state control grid and calling themselves technocrats. A technocrat is a group of dictators who use technology to control people. We are already beginning to fall to the Gray State. We will not bow! We will not bow! This fight is for the future of humanity, and we are in the fight. And it's now time for humanity to restore the Republic and restore freedom and the Bill of Rights and Constitution. It's just that simple.
Anything else? I don't want to take up too much of your time, but can we have verbal consent to use this footage?
Yeah, you can use this. Go ahead.
Your name?
I'm Alex Jones.
There was already this movement that was right at its peak when David was coming along with the Gray State Project. So it wasn't corralling, there was already a big audience. And then the rest of the audience came once they saw what was being put out.
Has anyone heard of Gray State? The film explores trends like RFID, bio, and nanotechnology. These represent the fusion of authoritarian control and human flesh. And these trends are no longer science fiction.
David Crowley is the warrior, right? He's the warrior, though, that is the artist. And in that, they see a guy who can be a leader of this movement. He's the guy that's going to take it beyond just chat rooms to a bigger discussion.
While I make no claim that my efforts as an artist best exemplify the thoughts and feelings of every person in this room, I do assert that as far as expressions of freedom go, this is one we can all get behind. And through our united effort, we can keep this film in the fiction section. Thank you.
Once you get into this information, there really is no end to it. It just leads into the next conspiracy, the next conspiracy. For example, you want to ask why veterans are on the watch list. Now this is coming out. Police agencies are being trained to watch veterans. So veterans, gun owners, patriots, these sort of people who are independent of the system or can be, are they really a threat to the New World Order? You're f***ing right they are. That's why they're being targeted. I guess I'm rambling. I got nothing. What's the next thing?
I think he had an element of paranoia to him. Like, whatever you told him, it's just he wasn't trusting it. He had gone through this transformation on that deployment. You know, it shocks the system, and you start looking at the world differently.
Hey guys, David Crowley from the Gray State Project. Tonight I'm going to be shooting a little bit for the documentary Gray State: The Rise. It's something that I've been picturing for the awakening moment, that is the eyes opening to appreciate the truth about our surroundings and our reality. Shh, shh, shh. So I'm using my wife Kamel as the main subject. She ends up being in most of my projects.
Should I look at her at all? Like,
No.
Oh, I'm so concerned for your life.
He always had to be in control of everything, every variable, and there was no collaborating with him. That was the problem. So
I think I should lean into her. Moms do that, like holding their child closer.
Well, it looks a little bit cliche and stupid.
Okay, you want to hit play?
I never saw them argue. I never saw anything like that. They didn't. They had a bad spell back in 2013. I think David was on the road so much and doing this Gray State stuff. I think Kamel felt she was holding the family together financially and filling in while David was gone so much that they had a rough spot for a while.
Meow, meow. Did you guys have a surprise at school? Because that's what the paper said. Meow, meow.
Kamel and I both worked in a clinic where we saw clients with eating disorders. The business that we created together was for nutrition around people with autoimmune diseases. I would say Kamel and David were definitely both at a point in their life that I think they both had pretty strong passions for separate things. Kamel, the nutrition, David more the film. She did not have many other friends outside of myself. She made a lot of comments that she would have loved to have more friends and that she was looking for ways to do so. It was just kind of, oh, David is a little different, so, you know, it just doesn't work out. But I could tell she was always very disappointed.
Kamel's behavior didn't add up. He was involved in everything, and she always made it seem like it's exactly what she wanted.
All right, Rodney, say hi, Mommy.
Hi, Mommy.
Okay, now we're gonna do the spin, okay? Okay, let's spin. Ready? Set. Go! Ah, so spinny. Oh. You don't like it as much as last time, huh?
It's fun, Daddy.
You like it? Is it fun? Yeah?
Ah.
Oh!
Ah.
It's too spinny!
So less than 2 years after the trailer comes out, he's made his way to Hollywood. He has script in hand. He makes contacts with legitimate Hollywood insiders who believe and tell David that they're gonna go out there and raise the money for a $30 million movie.
The way I would pitch this thing is America's finally had enough.
It's the population of this country has had enough of the corrupt government, and they make a stand. I think to this day, there's still a built-in audience for a film like this.
David did a phenomenal job grassrooting this project. You know, we see all that from our aspect, and everything that David put into this was phenomenal in our eyes, just because of how this thing grew. It took on its own legs and grew and grew and grew and grew. So this is our June 29th meeting. We're sitting at a pub on Sunset Boulevard in Hollywood. We all did a celebratory shot and to conduct new business. David was very laid back, very, very calm. In that meeting, it was just very, very, very professional.
No sense of just, you know, hitting his lines or, you know.
No, I never got that impression at all. If he was acting, he was one of the best actors I've ever seen.
I was just gonna say the same thing.
Pen, we hate you. Mike's meeting 2. The outline. Projecting power, confidence. Talk fast, easy, and project. Como's right. You're wearing something black. You got to show some arm veins. Watch on the left wrist. Bracelets on the right. A necklace that's long enough to be tucked in, nothing too flashy. Just enough to indicate that you're confident with your personality. Right. I'm not a fleece, you know. I'm not just a quick fleece. You're talking to me because this is my project. That transition's weak. I had 4,000, first of all, I had 4,000 fans before there was even a concept trailer. And I dropped it to those people, and it ballooned to 32,000 that you see today. These are the proverbial fish in a barrel that every time you say New World Order, they get out their wallets. So, how are the rewrites? This will probably start it. How are the rewrites? First thing you're going to do is see what they do to each other. If they look at each other, are they measuring me right now? All right. Mike, I see just one producer credit on your IMDb. This tells me that this is either MEG's first production or you guys have something else in mind. Remember, you're achieving a dominant position by matching their experience with your enthusiasm. So let them answer, but your wrap up now. Here's the sunset on your beautiful day with your partnership with the mics.
It's hard to express it. I got chills, actually.
It's the most divisive bull I've ever heard in my life. It's not the David who I met.
Not at all.
This is manipulative. This is psychotic.
Yeah.
I'm very insulted by it. Because what he's doing, he's taking an adversarial position towards us and playing us for chumps from day one. And yet, from day one, it was a collaboration and a collaborative effort for the project. This is the complete opposite of that. This is, I am, controlling the project. I'm going to work out exactly what words to say to elicit what response. This is craziness.
I don't even have to write it. I just have to have the idea, and people will start to do things. And I will make money off of it. Because this thing exists in my head. Whatever comes out of this first deal, I don't know what will happen afterwards. Because we're creating this thing that exists outside of all of us.
You were given this thing, told, like, you're David, you have a task, you're God.
We worked so hard and stuck together, and
Everything. We've stuck together through everything.
I'm so happy I understand you better. I love the bitch in you.
Passion, intensity, love is a lot of things, and love can turn into hatred too. It can turn into something negative if you put too much passion into it.
I just was concerned for him.
Because you go from hanging out with a person religiously to getting cut off. I mean, he withdrew from all of us so hard. Like, I'd text him and it would take a couple days for him to get back to us. And it's like, well, what's going on, man? He's like, I'm writing, I promise I'll, you know, da-da-da-da. And then when he emerged from that, that's when he said to all of us, like, you know, if you ever see me doing that again, say something and tell me, because I went to a dark place. So if I ever go back to my dark place, please tell me.
This is a journal entry. It's been a busy week writing Gray State, polishing it up. By the time you read this again, this whole nightmare will be over. David started journaling in day one. It's a program for journaling where he'd put pictures in every entry. They were random pictures, I think, but then he just journaled what was going on in his life at the time, mostly. He liked his dog a lot. I think his dog was one of his best friends. May 31st of 2014, journal entry. You will perform a ritual, a prayer for wisdom, love, empathy. These are the keys to unlock your ideal future, and you don't have an hour to waste.
So he's searching, right? He's a guy that is trying to bring a greater truth or truths or things that are hidden from us. He brings the spotlight to himself. David starts to feel pressure. I mean, it's not just about him anymore. It's not just about what he's bringing to the table. He's got all these other people at the buffet and they want his product. They want what he said he was going to do.
David got to a point where he got so upset with his fans that if they wrote something negative, he would ban them from the page. He didn't want to hear the negative anymore. He was like, I'm making a movie. It's gonna take time. It's not easy. You can take it or leave it. I don't have to listen to your
And I think when you have a target audience of that nature, they're going to respond the way they always do. They're going to not believe anything, they're gonna dig. You know, kind of like comic book movies, if you get something wrong, the die-hard comic book fans are going to attack you for this or attack you for that. These people are just actually legitimately insane, though. That's the difference.
I mean, the guy's more libertarian than anything, but he realizes that suspicions of wanting less government or questioning your government's motives or why there's wars or why are we, you know, in Afghanistan or Iraq like that, is way different than these other people who hate. And he wasn't talking about hate.
August 5th, 2014. David and Kamel are preparing for Ranya's birthday party. His quote was, unveiling from the distance everyone has perceived in us, ridding ourselves of dysfunctional relationships, friends, family.
So pretty. Thank you.
At the birthday party, the only thing that stood out to me was that they weren't talking at all. She had nothing bad to say about him. They had the closest relationship, and I just expected that they would flirt or kid around a little bit, but no, she was just really tense the whole time.
I'd say it was during Ranya's birthday party where I noticed such a disconnect between him and Kamel, and it was just really weird. It wasn't like any other time I've ever been in that household. It was stale, stagnant air. It just was bad.
This is where you see the occult influence in the story, and you'll see almost nothing until it spikes. But then a hint starts to rise. But if the hint is rising, where does the hint come from? And have I planted it appropriately in the past? And I'm able to see, like, when the bad guy is introduced, is there enough of the occult hint? Has it been properly set up in the inciting incident? So I can ultimately bring it from nowhere and create this emotionally charged climax that is loaded with meaning that you didn't see coming.
I moved back to Minneapolis in 2014 and linked back up with David. He was talking to me a lot about spiritualism. At this point, him and Kamel had converted, in a sense. They were no longer talking about Christianity. They were talking about and the resonance of the universe and transcendental philosophy and connecting to higher levels of consciousness. And whatever that was, David tapped into it.
It's just for us. It's August 29th. Ronnie came home with a fever, and you were connecting and playing.
Yeah, we were painting nails, and the door's right here to her room. I was sitting on the floor, and she was sitting facing me. And I had my back towards her bed. Mm-hmm. And then painting, and then we both felt something come through the door.
David never really got into a lot of details of what was going on with Kamel spiritually or what would actually take place. He would more propose questions of, so if some kind of spiritual attack, what would that look like?
And then, okay, cool. And then as I'm going back to painting my nails, I know where her voice is because I've been talking to her, so a voice higher than that. So I just feel like the height was higher than where she was at the bed. Knew you didn't like the song. I just froze. I'm like, Ronnie, did you say something? And just quiet. And I looked to see if she's awake or where it came from. She's like, what? No, I didn't say anything. I'm like, did you hear that? She's like, no, I didn't hear anything. And I came out and told you.
You want to know what I really think?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. I think people lean on the supernatural when they can't understand things that they're experiencing and feeling. And it's easier to believe that they were being chased by some kind of metaphysical spirit than they were being chased by their own problems.
Blue helmets.
After his daughter's birthday party, he starts just shutting down.
The only way out.
Guy who was on social media all the time stops returning phone calls of the very important people who he needs in order for his dream to be realized. And nobody really knows why.
So after the birthday party, me and David's communication became very sporadic. He was looking much more to be the sole controller of Gray State. He was looking for me to sign away my rights as being the creator and one of the actors in it. And I wouldn't budge on it.
September 8th, 2014, there was a journal entry. The universe may want me to destroy Danny Mason since he has given indication that he wants to stand in my way. What a fool. Convert him to my cause or destroy him. His next actions will decide. Sounds worse than it was. It was just David being creative, I think.
They were in it together. Like the disconnecting, which was weird. Because here they are disconnected at the birthday party. But yet, they as a couple are disconnected from all of us. And then it starts just going downhill from there.
It was a very drastic change. She became very isolated. Nobody would really see her. You wouldn't even know if she was at work, except for the fact that she was seeing her patients. She would take the back ways in and the back ways out.
If there would have been any little clue. If I just would have known even about what it looks like for a woman to be nervous or whatever, like I didn't know.
September 30th, 2014, a journal entry. Utterly bewildered and spent. I think a part of me is broken. People are just creatures to tolerate and get around so I can be on my way.
I was going to babysit for him, and that fell through. Go get it. After that, I would send him a text here and there offhandedly, and nothing, just didn't hear anything back. And that wasn't out of the ordinary. He gets busy, he does his writing, he gets buried in his work, so I wasn't concerned. I did notice that he wasn't responding. Then it became more of, I don't want to say pleading, but then I began to think something was wrong.
According to the police report, Kumail's sister drives 17 hours from Texas, pretty much as a desperate intervention. Her sister's not returning phone calls, they can't get in contact with David. And so she takes it upon herself to drive 17 hours from Texas and show up in Apple Valley. She gets to the door, rings the doorbell, and Kumail is home, and who appears in the door? It's David, who ends up telling her, no, you can't see your sister. And she never does.
She came in late October? That's insane. Why wouldn't you let her in the house?
I mean, what possible motivation, what possible reason could you have to explain that?
And so, the third plot twist, the third act twist. There has to be a little bit of willingness to be killed at the end. She's basically becoming a martyr. Don't resist by taking out a gun, resist by letting him do it. But when she dies, he lets her go, spiritually understanding that she got out and that he will too.
I remember saying to her in her office one day, Kumail, I feel like I'm speaking to David, not you. I want to speak to Kumail. And her response was, why? Do you think I'm not intelligent enough to come up with these things?
October 30th, 2014, there was a journal entry. It said, Kumail got raptured today, period. She's still here. It was hard to hear when I first listened because there's some background noise in the room. I didn't realize there was anything on here.
1:48 p.m., 30 October 2014. I was just getting back from Home Depot with a bunch of wood to build the compost bin. Had lunch with Coma, and suddenly she began to shake and weep and howl, as if like someone had died. And she sat down. She said, "This is what rapture is." You gotta give me some time.
Can I just lay here?
Yeah. Do you want? I was just trying to remember everything. If you want to contribute, you can help me remember.
Okay.
You said you've come very far to find me, and Ronnie and I need to come with you, and there's not much time. Time is not time is not of our world, and on some level your soul has committed to mine, and we're gonna go somewhere, and Ronnie's coming with.
I'm just kind of skeptical, you know, I'm like trying to make sure the source from whence it came was real. I don't know. My skeptical side right now, my scientific side, my brain's questioning where it came from. It's like, oh, was it something to confuse us? Am I crazy?
Sid and Nancy. I think what happened was Sid and Nancy. I don't mean this to speak ill of Kamel, rest her soul. I don't mean this to speak ill of David, rest his soul, and their daughter. But something was planned.
I think Kamel was in a hopeless situation and was just pretty much isolated with him. No friends, no family. And I think that she was hopeless.
The last time I was at his house, I went and brought him some lenses back. And that was in early November. And I remember looking at David and thinking, wow, you look like
November 2nd of 2014, the journal entry. The world is an inverse perversion of light. We are made of it and its weakness, a flashlight in the mind of Satan. But I am darkness.
I mean, hindsight's 20/20, but at the same time, when you're locked off from this person for months at a time and they're not they literally cut himself off from everyone, like deactivated his Facebook, wasn't answering phone calls, wasn't doing anything, wasn't seeing his family. What do you do?
The last time I saw him was late November. I've been over there a few times where he's in the middle of something he's working on and just, whoop, don't talk. I'll be present a little bit. Just don't disturb. I need my time. Don't really need anybody in and out. So it was more of kind of putting up a wall. But, yeah. Hold on. What? Just emotions, man. So, off for a second.
December 7th of 2014. The last pictures David took on his cell phone were of Kamel. She seemed happy in the pictures, and David used one of those pictures on his phone as the background.
Kamel was on edge. He was on edge. He was thin. Eyes were sunken in. And that's when I approached him. I said, you know what, David? You told me to speak up whenever I noticed you start going into your dark place again. I said, Danny's worried about you. I'm worried about you. What's going on, man? And he literally looked at me and said, you and Danny have nothing to fucking worry about. I'm fine.
When Kamel met me around Thanksgiving, she looked sad. She looked uncomfortable. I didn't know what to ask her. I was just trying to keep her there. I don't want to start crying right now, though. So I don't want to talk about that anymore.
December 19th, 2014. David and Kamel pick up their daughter, Rania, from their last day of school before the Christmas holidays. That was the last time they were seen by anyone that we know.
Driving to his house on Christmas Eve, there was a voice in my head. I don't know if I want to talk about this. So when I was driving to his house on Christmas Eve, I had a feeling like that I needed to go to his house and just tell him that I loved him. And by the time I got close enough, I had talked myself out of it, and I said, I'll just stop by another time. So, yeah, I wonder.
December 25th, 2014. David's up early in the morning as usual and was planning his grace date. future. And he writes, Christmas, 6-day countdown, meme, it will be a new year. And he proceeded to make a plan for every day until the new year. And he also made a plan that went way beyond that. Later that morning, David kills his family and then himself. That's it.
It's an idea going throughout, like, how can life keep emerging? How can it keep cropping up in new forms, especially with the way things are? But life has that sort of that nature of resilience and persistence. It's always popping up, even in the worst circumstances, and it's through that that changes are inevitable.
I got a call from my dad, and he asked if I was sitting down. He says, David. And then I was like, oh. And then he goes, Kamel, and I was like, oh. And Ronnie, and I just, I've never been stabbed, but it felt like something was going into my stomach with each name. And I couldn't breathe. And I just thought, this is like scripted almost.
Apple Valley Police recently closed their exhaustive year-long investigation, and for the first time are sharing their findings with the Fox 9 investigators.
It looks like David snapped and took the lives of his wife and daughter, and then ultimately himself.
Who wrote Allah Akbar on the wall?
He did.
In her blood?
Yes.
Why did he do that?
We believe that was just kind of a parting shot.
David Crowley seemed like he was very specific in how he wanted to be perceived to the outside world. It was almost like David gave us this plot twist at the end of Allah Akbar. You know, this plot twist that wasn't going to have any resolution, but that people would continue talking about.
Who walks into a house and sees Allah Akbar written on a wall and goes, oh yeah, David Crowley, someone who is not a Muslim, all of a sudden now he's writing it, and that somehow proves that he's guilty?
David Crowley would not write Allah Akbar in his wife's blood on the wall and leave a Quran open. He never brought up that issue once.
So what does it mean? To me, it was, my thinking is that it was throwing off the chains of pressure from delivering this movie, pressure from people telling me he had to make this movie, pressure as a man who has to provide for his family. And I think he was emancipating himself from all of it.
David planned ahead. David was 10 steps ahead, 12 steps ahead. And his military training, if it taught me the same thing, I guarantee it taught him the same thing. You have alternate courses of action for every event that occurs.
You guys say, woo!
I don't think you're missing anything. I mean, you're coming up with a good, solid timeline for everything. You're interviewing all of us. The only thing you're missing is why. And you're never gonna know why. I'm not, you're not, Danny, everybody, family, nobody's gonna know why. That's the only thing that you're not gonna have there.
And this is the strange thing. It's almost like he created a soundtrack to the murder-suicide. You know, something called Ascent. This music probably played for hours, maybe days after they were dead. Was he imagining these 53 songs as the songs that he would play while he's committing a murder-suicide? It's hard to know. I mean, this was on a loop. Who plans a soundtrack for the murder of their family? I don't know. I don't know.
Creeping around the bend, death illuminates the lines we live within. Like a black sunrise, reality takes shape and form and fills the sky. Some questions will fade, these will remain. Are you gonna fall behind? I know you lay tired in pools of tears. Don't fade out, it's almost here. The final Are you?
Ready?
Oh, Billy, you need some encouragement. What? Need a free bite? A free one? You can't even have it.
1 minute in.
1 minute?
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna show this to you at your graduation. You'll see.
You like the dog more than most people. Well, except for his family. He probably likes the dog more than every person.
I told you, buddy. I told you.
Yeah, this is cute. I want the dog now back.